Hello garden friends, Jersey Shore Lisa from MyNJGarden.com. Today we're going to talk about compost. You can see my compost behind me. I have a 2-bay system, and compost, I've been composting since about 2009, but not everyone has, and it's something that's really important for the environment, for our planet, and to keep our organic waste material that we generate from within the household out of the landfill. So if you can consider composting for your gardens on your property, it's really a great idea. And I took a workshop over the weekend on Saturday. The folks from the Ocean County Solid Waste Management put on this workshop along with the Ocean County Historical Society in Toms River. It happened at their facility, the Historical Society, and they have a beautiful Victorian garden in the back. So the workshop started with a slideshow and some educational, a little bit of an educational lecture inside, and then we moved outside to actually build a compost pile and take a look at a couple of different methods of composting. So I actually have some highlights from that event, and I put together a clip. Take a look.
Okay, so let me then introduce our speakers for today. We have Sandra Blaine Snow and Tanara Hall from Ocean County Solid Waste Management and Master Composters to learn about composting and gardening in Ocean County.
Composting is basically a traditional agricultural practice that has been done for eons to improve soil. The Lenape, as we know, they were a native tribe here before the Europeans showed up. They actually taught the Pilgrims how to do trench composting. And if you're wondering what that is the most basic, simple form of composting you can do. As the name implies, you dig a trench, you'll take organic materials, you'll throw it in the trench, you'll cover it up with soil, and a year later you'll come back and it will have improved that soil. I call the Indori method the lasagna method of composting. So it's basically layering brown materials, green materials, and you keep going. J.I. Rodale comes along and he starts to propose the importance of the organic movement, organic farming, getting away from the pesticides, the herbicides that are becoming very prevalent in the 60s. J.I. Rodale wanted to prove to people that you could do organic farming on a large-scale basis. It wasn't just for little hippies in a commune with a few acres. Does anyone know what else Rodale was famous for? Kind of a fun fact here. He's known for dropping dead on live television. That's what he's known for. He was being interviewed, and the interviewer, whose name is eluding me right now, asked him, Mr. Rodale, I see we are boring you. And after a while of silence, they realized he wasn't sleeping. You might not think about it. Vegetarianism started with the Victorians. Also wildlife conservation. Feminism started with it. They were actually movers and shakers for their times. Here's an interesting fact. If you went over to Europe, you would find more Native American plants in Europe than you would find back here. European gardens would have an American garden. Native plants didn't become a big thing again until later.
So what is compost? It's literally just recycled organic matter. We're just recreating what nature does. It doesn't smell, and that is alive. You have a lot of microbes in there. It's full of important nutrients and micronutrients. It's just a natural process of decomposition, and it's also a humus-rich soil amendment. And it's just gonna do good for your plants, but it's also gonna do good for the environment because you're gonna take that away from the landfill and avoid creating methane gas. And just remember that a big percentage of your household waste is organic, unless you hate fruits and vegetables, then probably won't be that much. We're gonna teach you how to make compost, just the theory, and then we're gonna go outside and then we'll, put it in practice. So what you need is to select the right tools, equipment, and location. You're gonna gather organic materials. We left them outside, but we have some in here.
There we go. Yep. This is from our office. We compost at home, but
So you get, pieces of peppers.
We got
Someone really like
coffee grounds,
coffee
and
grounds.
filter.
You're gonna have the perfect mix of material. Remember, you have to turn and add water and be patient.
If it's too small, you're not gonna get the heat up, and if it's too large, it's difficult to deal with.
But very small because you want all the microbes and all the little insects to come from the soil.
Smaller things break down faster, so you can throw in large material, but if you chop it up, and most of the stuff you're putting in from your kitchen is already, banana peels, apple cores, it's already small to begin with. And the other thing with leaves, like I said, my husband has a leaf vacuum, so it chops and grinds up the leaves a little more. So it's gonna break down faster, and basically we're talking about increased surface area. So I always say if you throw an entire watermelon into a compost pile, it will break down, but the insects can only work around that circumference. If you're chopping it and making it into smaller pieces, it gives more area for them to work on faster. So C/N ratio is just carbon to nitrogen. So the C is carbon, the N is nitrogen. So carbon is brown material, and your leaves are the most common that we have. They have low moisture, they're slower to break down, but the reason we keep telling you about the brown materials, aside from covering the greens and keeping critters out, is you don't want to have a smell. So, and if you use the right ratio, you will be fine. And the thing to remember is you're always going to need more brown material than green material. So that's why you want to save your leaves. The N, which is nitrogen, the greens. So some of the materials you're going to say, but Sandra, those materials aren't just green, they come in different colors. Green materials are just, they're dense, they're wet, so they're easily digested sugars and starches. So, the microbes, they're using that for energy.
When you know it's finished or not.
So the temperature's gonna drop back. One of the things that's nice about the temperature probe is it kind of tells you, like, it heats up, and when it hits like a certain point and then the temperature drops back, that's telling you it's time to turn it again. And you'll turn it and it will probably stay about the same temperature, and then it'll start heating up again. So when you get to the point where even though you're turning it and it's not heating up anymore, you know it's done. But also the most obvious thing is to look at it and just see it. You can't see any of the original materials except for corn cobs and eggshells, which last forever, and mango pits. And it's unidentifiable. It doesn't look like what you originally put in the pile. And as you can tell from having passed it around, it has an earthy, sweet smell. Okay, it doesn't smell bad. And then also it's reduced by about 30 to 50%. So when you start with that compost pile, if you were to do a hot pile, fill it to the top, by the time it's done, it's going to be half the size it was. It reduces in volume. I like to use compost as a mulch because it's already broken down. It's fairly stable. A lot of the mulches are heavy on brown material, so as a brown material, that mulch that you put down, you might see sometimes people have heavily mulched beds. Some of the plants turn yellowish. It's because that brown material is looking for nitrogen. So yeah, so if you don't give it nitrogen, it's going to suck it out of the ground and take it from the plant. Nope, no compost bin should have a bottom. They should all be open to the ground. What I would always say is when you first start, and if you've never composted before, you don't have any compost, but you want to add a little bit of like bulk to it. So I don't know about you, but twigs and branches are always falling down around my house. If you're pruning your plants this time of the year, like, deadheading your hydrangeas, all that kind of like bulky, branchy kind of material, that's what you're going to throw in first. And you would be even putting in more than that. That's going to give it a little more aeration as you start piling stuff in. We have our leaves, we have our brown materials. We have our 2 parts brown material to 1 part green material. You can dump it in there, and then you grab leaves or whatever brown material you have and add to it. So if I was going to build this bin from scratch, I'm going to start with the leaves. I'm going to, I've got the sticks and twigs down there. Let's imagine we got a few more. And then I'm going to add the leaves in there. These came from my yard, and I know Frank brought some in so that they're partially decomposed. We'll just throw that guy in like that. Okay, there we go. So we're going to wet the leaves down. You can certainly, if you have a hose end on it, do like this. So we would add our green material. There we go. Wow, that's a lot of green material. And if you'd like to, coffee grounds, got a lot of those. But you would just turn this around and get it worked in together. You don't have to go too crazy. but you like to get a nice mix to it. So
Yeah, right. Is that okay?
there we go. You'll see it's still a little dry even with the green materials, so in an ideal world, this is what I'm doing in my backyard. Okay. There we go there. Add a little more. And then I'm what you call an intuitive composter. I'm like hands-on. I go by look and sight. So if you feel your compost, which I recommend you do, if you squeeze it, see, there's a little bit of water dripping out. You want it to be like a damp, wrung out sponge. So there's a little bit of water coming out of there. So that's a little too wet, but that's okay because we got more brown material over here that we're going to throw in.
Fix it.
You can fix it. And it's like you just finesse it until you get it right. All right, let's put it this way. Too much water, it would probably cut down on the oxygen and then it would go anaerobic, so it's going to smell worse. If it's too dry, it's just not going to do anything, but it's not going to smell. So I guess it's the smell thing. Throw in another bucket of the leaves. So I'm looking at this now. I've been turning it around. I know I'm going to reach my hand in there and find a holly leaf, so if you hear me scream, that's it. But you guys don't have to feel this. But as you can see, I squeeze it, nothing comes out. You know, it just feels like a damp, wrung out sponge. So, but then now that you see all this brown material in here, you're going to add some more green material, and you just keep building it up and going with it until you fill this up. Or it may be, especially if it's add as you go, it's going to keep breaking down slowly. So what's going to happen is you're going to keep adding material to this, give it a little bit of a turn, make sure the moisture's good, and then after time, you're going to do like I did this afternoon before I came to the event. You're just going to open the little door on this one. Right now you see leaves falling out, but when it's finished compost, you're going to open it, and what you saw in that container inside is what you're going to harvest. So you can always be doing a continual little bit of harvest as you go. You know, most of the time it's just going to be very, very low maintenance. Most of us are busy. We don't have time to do this, but for the most part, I ignore a lot of my stuff because I don't have the time. And it still decomposes, and it's still better than sending it to a landfill. So our landfill is only going to last until, it was supposed to close in 2016. We managed to extend it. We might make it until 2038. So we want to keep the organics out of there. It's a valuable ingredient, and we're throwing it in a landfill where there's no air, there's no light. It doesn't break down. If it does, it breaks down anaerobically and creates methane. So we want to keep that landfill open as long as we can, because once it closes, we can't build another one in Ocean County, and then we have to transfer our garbage someplace else. So if everyone starts composting in their backyard, you might not think it's a lot, but if 20 of you guys go home and start composting today, that's going to take out, each one of you, each household, probably 200 pounds of organic waste. It's going to make a difference. And you will see when you go to take your garbage out, you're going out to the garbage can less. You're going to the compost bin more, but you're going to the garbage can less.
So I hope you enjoyed the highlights from that composting seminar. I really thought that they did a great job explaining compost and showing us how to do it. If you compost, let us know some tips if they didn't go over anything, something that someone who doesn't compost yet should really know. Give us a comment below. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel and join me for all my garden updates. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.